My name is Sharon, and I am 56 years old. For 33 years, I raised my son alone, working 2 jobs, sacrificing everything so he could have the life I never did. I thought we were close. I thought he loved me the way I loved him. But then came the phone call that shattered everything. "We're already married, Mum. Send me the key to the house in Malibu." He didn't invite me to his wedding, but he wanted to spend his honeymoon at my house. I just smiled, hung up, and 3 days later, the wedding gift I left at their door had his wife in tears. Before I tell you what happened, I'd love to know where you're watching from. If you've ever felt taken for granted by someone you love, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is about what happens when a mother finally says, enough. Now let me start from the beginning. When Kyle was just a dream I held in my arms. I divorced when Kyle was only 3 years old. It was 1992, and my husband Gregory walked out on us for another woman. Just like that, he packed his bags, drove away in our only decent car, and never looked back. No child support, no phone calls, no birthday cards. He simply vanished from Kyle's life as if we'd never existed. I was left alone in our tiny apartment in San Diego, California, with a toddler who kept asking when Daddy was coming home. I had no choice but to become everything Kyle needed: mother, father, provider, protector. I worked as an administrative assistant at an insurance company during the day, barely making enough to cover rent and groceries. So I took a second job, waiting tables at a diner 3 nights a week. I'd leave Kyle with my neighbor Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who charged me almost nothing because she knew I was struggling. Some nights I'd come home at 11, my feet aching from standing for hours, my hands smelling like grease and coffee, and Kyle would be asleep on Mrs. Chen's couch. I'd carry him home, tuck him into bed, then sit at our kitchen table paying bills until past midnight, trying to figure out how to make $30 stretch until Friday. But I never let Kyle see me cry, never let him feel the weight of our situation. When he woke up in the morning, there was always breakfast on the table. His clothes were always clean, even if I had to hand wash them in the bathtub because the laundromat was too expensive. His lunchbox always had a note from me tucked inside, something silly like, "You're my sunshine," or "Have the best day ever, my sweet boy." The years passed in a blur of exhaustion and love. I watched Kyle grow from a shy 3-year-old into a curious, intelligent child. He loved reading, would devour books from the library faster than I could check them out. He was gentle with other kids, always the first to share his toys or help someone who'd fallen on the playground. Teachers adored him. He made me so proud. Our life wasn't glamorous. We couldn't afford vacations or new toys. Christmas meant one gift carefully chosen and saved for over months. Birthdays meant homemade cakes because store-bought ones cost too much. But we had each other. Every night we'd eat dinner together at our small table, just the 2 of us, and Kyle would tell me about his day. He'd show me his drawings, read me his stories, ask me questions about everything from dinosaurs to outer space. Those moments made every sacrifice worth it. When Kyle turned 10, I baked him a chocolate cake from scratch. I was so tired that day, having worked a double shift at the diner the night before, but I stayed up until 2 in the morning, making sure that cake was perfect. Kyle's face when he saw it, candles flickering in the dim light of our kitchen, made my heart swell. He hugged me so tight and whispered, "You're the best mom in the whole world." I held on to that moment like a lifeline. The proudest day of my life was Kyle's high school graduation. He stood on that stage in his cap and gown, valedictorian of his class, and I sat in the audience, crying tears of joy. He'd earned a full scholarship to UCLA. My son was going to college. Not just any college, but one of the best universities in the country. I couldn't afford to help him much financially, but I scraped together enough to buy him a new laptop and a decent set of sheets for his dorm room. I put both on credit cards I'd spend the next 2 years paying off. We stayed close during his first 2 years at UCLA. He'd call me every day, tell me about his classes, his new friends, the exciting life he was building in Los Angeles. I lived for those calls. Even though he was 2 hours away, hearing his voice made me feel connected to him. I'd ask about his studies, remind him to eat properly, tell him how much I missed him. Then, in his junior year, Kyle met Tessa. He brought her home to meet me on a Saturday afternoon in the fall of 2013. I'd spent the entire morning cleaning our apartment, making sure everything looked perfect. I cooked Kyle's favorite meal pot roast with mashed potatoes, the way I'd made it for him since he was little. I wanted to make a good impression on this girl who'd captured my son's heart. Tessa walked through my door in designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall blonde, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. But when she looked around my small living room, taking in the worn sofa I'd bought second-hand 15 years ago, the outdated television, the patched carpet, I saw something flicker across her face. Disdain. "This is where you grew up?" she asked Kyle, her voice carrying just enough surprise to sting. Kyle looked uncomfortable. "Yeah, Mom's lived here since I was a kid." I forced a smile. "It's not much, but it's home. Please sit down. Dinner's almost ready." Tessa perched on the edge of the sofa like she was afraid it might contaminate her expensive clothes. Throughout dinner, she barely spoke to me. When she did, her tone was polite but cold, as if she were humoring a stranger rather than meeting her boyfriend's mother. She picked at her food, eating almost nothing. After they left, Kyle called me from the car. "Mom, I'm sorry Tessa was kind of quiet. She's just nervous meeting new people." I wanted to believe him. "Of course, honey. She seems nice." But I knew better. I'd seen the way she looked at my home at me. I'd heard the subtle condescension in her voice, and something in my gut told me that Tessa was going to be a problem. Over the next few months, I watched my son slip away from me. At first, it was small things. Kyle started calling less frequently. Instead of our daily conversations, I'd hear from him every few days, then once a week. When I'd call him, he'd sound distracted, hurried. "Sorry, Mom, I'm with Tessa. Can I call you back?" He rarely did. I tried to be understanding. He was young in love, building his own life. This was natural, I told myself. All children grow up and become independent. But it hurt more than I wanted to admit. The visits home became less frequent too. Before Tessa, Kyle would come back to San Diego at least once a month, sometimes just for the weekend. We'd go to the beach, cook dinner together, watch old movies we'd seen 100 times. After Tessa, he always had an excuse. He was busy with schoolwork. He had plans with Tessa's family. He was going to Napa Valley for the weekend, or Santa Barbara, or some other place I couldn't afford to visit. My 50th birthday arrived in April of 2014. I didn't expect much, just hoped Kyle might come home for the day. We could have cake, maybe take a walk by the water like we used to. But when I called him that morning, he sounded rushed. "Happy birthday, Mom." "Thank you, sweetheart. Are you coming down today?" There was a pause. "Actually, I can't. Tessa's parents invited me to Napa Valley for the weekend. Her dad wants to introduce me to some business contacts. It's a really great opportunity." I felt my chest tighten. "Oh, okay. I'm really sorry, Mom. I'll make it up to you, I promise." "It's fine, Kyle. Have fun." I hung up and spent my 50th birthday alone. I bought myself a cupcake from the grocery store, stuck a candle in it, and sang happy birthday to myself in my empty apartment. Then I cried myself to sleep. The worst part was I could feel Tessa's influence on Kyle, like a shadow creeping over him. He started talking differently, using phrases like investment opportunities and networking. He mentioned Tessa's parents constantly. Her father, Harold, owned a successful real estate development company. Her mother, Francine, sat on charity boards and hosted lavish parties. They lived in Beverly Hills, in a house with 7 bedrooms and a pool. One night, Kyle mentioned they'd gone to a charity gala. "It was incredible, Mom. There were celebrities there, and the food was amazing. Tessa looked beautiful. Her mom lent her a necklace that cost more than anything I've ever seen." I tried to sound happy for him. "That sounds wonderful, honey." But inside I felt a growing dread. Kyle was being pulled into a world where I didn't belong. A world where my second-hand furniture and hand-me-down clothes were embarrassing reminders of poverty he wanted to forget. Tessa made sure of that. She was subtle about it. I'll give her credit. She never outright told Kyle to distance himself from me. She just planted seeds. You're a grown man now, Kyle. You need to focus on your future, not be tied to the past. Your mum is sweet, but she can be a bit much, don't you think? All those phone calls. Successful people surround themselves with successful people. Slowly, Kyle started to believe her. The breaking point came during Kyle's senior year. I'd planned to visit him in Los Angeles for Parents' Weekend at UCLA. I'd requested the time off from work weeks in advance, saved money for gas, and a modest hotel room. I was so excited to see his campus, meet his professors, spend time with my son. 2 days before I was supposed to drive up, Kyle called. "Mom, about this weekend. Maybe it's better if you don't come." I felt like I'd been slapped. What? Why? Tessa's parents are coming, and they're taking us all to this really nice restaurant. It's kind of a formal thing, and I just think it might be awkward with you there too. Awkward. My presence was awkward. "I see," I managed to say. "It's not personal, Mom. It's just, different worlds." Different worlds. As if the world I'd created for him, working myself to the bone, to give him opportunities, was something to be ashamed of. "Fine, Kyle. Enjoy your weekend." I cancelled my hotel reservation and spent that weekend working extra shifts at the diner, trying not to think about my son being embarrassed by the mother who'd sacrificed everything for him. Kyle graduated from UCLA in the spring of 2015. I drove up for the ceremony, my heart bursting with pride despite everything. I wore my nicest dress, the one I saved for special occasions, and carried a gift I'd been planning for months, a watch. Nothing fancy, but something meaningful engraved on the back. "To Kyle, who made every sacrifice worth it. Love, Mum." The ceremony was beautiful. Seeing Kyle walk across that stage diploma in hand brought tears to my eyes. This was my son, my brilliant, accomplished son. I'd done this. Me. Single mother, 2 jobs, no help from anyone. I'd gotten him here. After the ceremony, I found Kyle surrounded by Tessa's family. Harold and Francine stood on either side of him, beaming like he was their son. Francine had her arm linked through his. Harold was patting him on the back. Tessa clung to his other arm, radiant in a designer dress. I approached slowly, feeling suddenly out of place in my modest outfit next to their obvious wealth. "Kyle," I called softly. He turned, and for just a second, I saw genuine happiness in his eyes. "Mom." He hugged me quickly. "I'm so glad you made it." "Of course I made it. I'm so proud of you." I held out the small wrapped box. "I got you something." "Thanks, Mom." He took it, but didn't open it. "Listen, Tessa's parents are taking us to dinner at this amazing restaurant in Beverly Hills. It's kind of a reservation-only place. I waited for the invitation that didn't come, so I'll call you tomorrow, okay?" My smile felt frozen on my face. "Sure, of course. You go celebrate." Harold stepped forward, extending his hand. "You must be Sharon. Kyle's told us so much about you. Wonderful job raising this young man." His words were kind, but they felt patronizing, like he was patting me on the head for doing the bare minimum. "Thank you," I managed. "We're taking Kyle to Spago. Ever heard of it?" Harold chuckled. "Wolfgang Puck's place. Best Austrian food in the city." I hadn't heard of it, and the way he said it, he knew I hadn't. Tessa touched Kyle's arm. "We should go. Our reservation is in an hour." Kyle hugged me again this time, even more briefly. "Thanks for coming, Mom. I'll call you soon." I watched them walk away. Kyle in the middle, surrounded by Tessa's family, looking back only once to wave. I waved back, standing alone in the crowd of celebrating families. I drove home to San Diego that night, 2 hours in the dark, crying so hard I had to pull over twice. When I got home, I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment complex and thought about how I'd spent 33 years building a life for my son, and in the span of 2 years, he'd let someone convince him I wasn't good enough to be part of his success. The watch I'd given him, I later learned, sat unopened in a drawer. He never even looked at the engraving. After graduation, Kyle moved to Los Angeles permanently. Harold had offered him a position at his real estate development firm, starting at a salary that made my head spin. $80,000 a year right out of college with benefits and bonuses. Kyle rented a sleek apartment in a high-rise downtown, the kind of place with a doorman and a gym, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I was happy for his success. Truly I was. I'd wanted nothing more than for Kyle to have opportunities I never had. But watching him drift further into Tessa's world felt like losing him piece by piece. He called less and less. Our conversations, when they happened, felt strained. He'd talk about work, about deals and clients and investment properties, using language I barely understood. He'd mention dinners at restaurants I'd never heard of, weekends at resorts in Palm Springs or Catalina Island. His life had become completely foreign to me. I tried to stay connected. I'd call him every few weeks just to hear his voice. Sometimes he'd answer, sometimes it would go to voicemail. When we did talk, I could hear the impatience in his tone, like he was doing me a favor by staying on the line. "How are you, honey?" I'd ask. "Busy mom, work's crazy right now." "Are you eating okay? Getting enough sleep?" "I'm fine. Listen, I have to go. I'll talk to you later." Later never came unless I initiated it. I made the drive up to Los Angeles a few times, hoping to surprise Kyle with a visit. I'd bring homemade cookies or a casserole, something to make his apartment feel like home. But each time the visit felt awkward. Kyle would seem annoyed that I'd shown up unannounced. He'd let me in, but I could tell he was anxious for me to leave. His apartment was beautiful, but cold, all modern furniture and neutral colors. There were no photos of us, no reminders of his childhood. It was like he'd erased his past entirely. The holidays became unbearable. Thanksgiving 2016, I invited Kyle home. I spent 2 days preparing his favorite meal, roasted turkey, with all the trimmings, sweet potato casserole, homemade pumpkin pie. I set the table for 2, put out the nice dishes I saved for special occasions, even bought a bottle of wine. He called the morning of Thanksgiving. "Mom, I'm not going to make it." I felt my stomach drop. "What, Kyle, it's Thanksgiving." "I know, but Tessa's family invited me to their house. Her whole extended family is going to be there, and her dad really wants me there. It's important for my career." "Your career?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "It's Thanksgiving, Kyle. We always spend Thanksgiving together." "We used to spend Thanksgiving together. Things change, Mom. I'm building a life here." "What about me? What about our life?" "Don't make this a big thing. I'll see you at Christmas." He didn't see me at Christmas either. He sent a gift through the mail, an expensive scarf I'd never wear, and called for 10 minutes on Christmas morning before rushing off to open presents with Tessa's family. I spent Christmas alone, sitting in front of a small tree I'd decorated just to have something festive in my apartment. I ate leftover turkey from a meal I'd cooked for one. And I wondered where I'd gone wrong, what I could have done differently to make my son still want me in his life. Mother's Day that year, I received flowers delivered to my door. Beautiful roses professionally arranged with a card that said, "Happy Mother's Day, love Kyle." But no visit. No phone call until I called him. No actual effort, just money spent on a gesture that required nothing from him. My friends noticed. At work, when they'd ask about Kyle, I'd put on a bright smile and say, "Oh, he's doing wonderfully. So successful. I'm very proud." But they could see through it. My friend Linda, who'd worked beside me at the insurance company for 15 years, finally said what everyone was thinking. "Sharon, when was the last time you actually saw Kyle?" I had to think about it. "His graduation, 2 years ago." Linda's face filled with sympathy. "Honey, you need to talk to him. This isn't right." But I didn't know how to talk to him. How do you tell your child they're breaking your heart? How do you demand they love you the way you love them? Then one afternoon in the spring of 2018, I ran into someone who finally made me see the truth I'd been avoiding. I was at the grocery store loading bags into my car when I heard someone call my name. "Mrs. Thompson." I turned to see Jacob standing there. Sweet Jacob, who'd been Kyle's best friend all through middle school and high school. They'd been inseparable once, spending every weekend at each other's houses, getting into harmless trouble dreaming about their futures. Jacob. How are you? He hugged me warmly. I'm good. Still here in San Diego working at my dad's auto shop. He hesitated. I'm really sorry about how Kyle's been treating you. I froze. What do you mean? Jacob looked uncomfortable. I probably shouldn't say anything. Please tell me. He sighed. I saw Kyle a few months ago when he was in town for some work thing. We grabbed coffee, tried to catch up like old times, but he was different. Cold. He talked about his job, his apartment, Tessa's family. When I asked about you, he got all weird and defensive. My hands tightened on my grocery bags. What did he say? He said you were too clingy, that you called too much and made him feel guilty about living his own life. Then Tessa called, and I heard him tell her he was stuck talking to an old friend and he'd get away as soon as he could. Jacob shook his head. Mrs. Thompson, the Kyle I knew, would never talk about you like that. Tessa's changed him. She makes him ashamed of where he came from. I heard him tell someone at a party that his childhood was complicated and he didn't like to talk about it, like you're something to be embarrassed about. Each word was a knife. I stood there in the parking lot groceries getting warm in the California sun and felt something inside me crack. Embarrassed. My son was embarrassed of me. Thank you for telling me, I whispered. Jacob squeezed my shoulder. You deserve better. You were always so good to us. I remember all those times you let me stay for dinner when my parents were fighting. You treated me like I was your own kid. Kyle doesn't know how lucky he is. I drove home in a daze. I sat in my apartment, the same apartment where I'd raised Kyle, where every corner held a memory of him, and I cried harder than I'd cried in years. Not sad tears, angry tears. I'd given him everything. Every dollar I earned, every ounce of energy. I had every dream I'd ever held for myself. I'd worked until my body ached, sacrificed my youth, my health, my chance at my own happiness, all so Kyle could have more than I did. And he'd repaid me by pretending I didn't exist, because my life wasn't glamorous enough for his new girlfriend and her wealthy family. That night, I made a decision. I stopped calling Kyle. If he wanted to talk to me, he could make the effort. I wasn't going to beg for my own son's attention anymore. Weeks passed, then months. Kyle didn't call. He sent a text on my birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. That was it. No call, no visit. Just 3 words that required no effort whatsoever. I didn't respond. I started building my own life, the life I'd put on hold for 33 years. I took painting classes at the community center. I joined a book club. I went on a weekend trip to San Francisco with Linda, my first vacation in over a decade. I started living for myself, instead of waiting by the phone for a son who didn't care. And then one morning in March 2018, my phone rang. Kyle's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Hey, Mom, how are you? His voice was cheerful, like we talked all the time, like he hadn't ignored me for months. I'm fine, how are you? Great, actually. Really great. Listen, I have some news. I waited. Tessa and I got married. The world stopped. What? Yeah, last weekend. We had a ceremony in Hawaii. It was beautiful, just close family and friends, really intimate. I couldn't breathe. You got married and didn't tell me. It was really last minute. Tessa's parents arranged everything. They rented this amazing resort, flew everyone out. It was like a dream. I'm your mother. How could you not invite me? Mom, don't make this a big thing. We wanted something small and personal. Small. How many people were there? He paused. About 50. 50 people. Tessa's family, her friends' people, Kyle had known for a few years. But not me. Not the woman who'd raised him alone, who'd worked herself to exhaustion so he could have opportunities. Kyle, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you want me at your wedding? Here we go again. His tone shifted, became irritated. This is exactly why we didn't invite you. You always make everything about you. Can't you just be happy for me?" I was shaking now, rage and pain mixing into something I couldn't control. "How dare you? I have given you everything, and you couldn't even include me in the most important day of your life. Mom, what's done is done. We're already married. I'm calling to tell you now, aren't I? Can we just move past this?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Why are you calling Kyle really?" "Well, there's actually something I wanted to ask you." His voice brightened like we hadn't just been arguing. "Tessa and I want to spend our honeymoon at your beach house in Malibu." I blinked, sure I'd misheard. "What beach house?" "The one Grandma left you. You inherited it when she passed away, right? My mother had died 2 years earlier, leaving me her small cottage in Malibu. It was the only thing of value. She'd owned a 2-bedroom house 3 blocks from the beach. I'd considered selling it, but the real estate market was complicated, and I'd ended up renting it out through a vacation rental service instead. The income helped supplement my retirement savings. Kyle, I rent that house out to tourists. It's how I make extra money. So cancel whoever's booked. This is my honeymoon, Mom. Surely your son's happiness is more important than some strangers paying you a few $100. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You didn't invite me to your wedding, but you want to use my house for your honeymoon. Come on, Mom, it's the least you can do. Think of it as a wedding gift. The least I could do. As if I hadn't already done enough. As if 33 years of sacrifice meant nothing. "Let me think about it," I said quietly. "What's there to think about?" "Just text me the code for the lockbox. We want to head down there next Monday, stay for 2 weeks. I said I need to think about it, Kyle. Seriously, Mum, this is ridiculous. It's just a house sitting empty anyway, right? No, actually it's not. I have guests booked starting next week. Then cancel them. This is my honeymoon. This is important. Something inside me snapped. 33 years of being taken for granted, of putting his needs above mine, of accepting whatever scraps of affection he threw my way. And now this, the audacity of asking for my house after excluding me from his wedding. "I'll let you know," I said. "Mom, just send me the key. Don't be difficult. Goodbye, Kyle." I hung up before he could respond. I sat there for a long time, phone in my hand. Emotions swirling through me like a storm. Hurt, anger, betrayal. But underneath it all, something else. Something hard and cold and resolute. Enough. I had spent my entire adult life being a good mother, putting Kyle first, accepting whatever treatment he gave me because I loved him. But love goes both ways. Respect goes both ways. And Kyle had shown me neither. My phone buzzed. A text from Kyle. "Thanks, Mom. Knew you'd come through. Text me the address and code." He hadn't even waited for my answer. He'd just assumed I'd give him what he wanted, like always. I stared at that text for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Okay, honey. I'll arrange everything. Enjoy your honeymoon." His response came immediately. "Thanks, Mom. You're the best." I wasn't being the best. I was being done. And I was about to teach my son a lesson he desperately needed to learn. That night, I barely slept. My mind was racing anger and hurt, fueling an idea that grew clearer with each passing hour. Kyle thought he could use me, take from me, exclude me from his life, except when he needed something. He thought I was just going to hand over my property, the only valuable thing I owned, besides my memories, like it meant nothing. He was wrong, but I wasn't going to just refuse him. That would be too simple, too easy for him to dismiss as me being difficult. No, what Kyle needed was to understand exactly what he'd thrown away. He needed to see, really see everything I'd sacrificed for him, everything he'd taken for granted. I got up as the sun rose and went to my closet. In the back, behind my winter coats and old shoes, were boxes I hadn't opened in years. Storage boxes filled with memories. I pulled them out one by one, carrying them to my dining table. Inside were pieces of Kyle's entire childhood. Photographs, report cards, artwork he'd made in elementary school, Mother's Day cards with his crooked handwriting, "I love you, Mummy," birthday cards, thank you notes, every scrap of paper that showed me who my son had been before Tessa, and wealth and shame had corrupted him. But that wasn't all I'd kept. I'd also saved every receipt, every bill, every financial record from the past 33 years, because I was careful with money, always had to be, and I kept meticulous records. Now those records were going to tell a story. I spent the entire weekend going through everything. I organized it chronologically, starting from the day Kyle was born. Hospital bills from his birth, showing the total cost and the payment plan I'd been on for 3 years. Receipts for diapers, formula baby clothes. As he got older, receipts for daycare for Mrs. Chen's babysitting for school supplies and shoes and winter coats. Every single thing I'd bought him, I'd kept the receipt. Not because I ever planned to use them this way, but because I'd always needed to know exactly where every penny went. When you live paycheck to paycheck, you track everything. I found receipts from his 10th birthday party, the one where I'd bought cake mix and frosting and made his cake myself because I couldn't afford the bakery. I found the receipt for the used bicycle I'd bought him when he was 12, paying in installments at the pawn shop over 4 months. I found receipts for his high school textbooks, for the graphing calculator he needed for math class, for the suit I'd bought him for prom. And then college. The receipts got bigger. The laptop I'd bought him $1,200 that I put on a credit card and paid off over 2 years. Bedding and towels and a mini fridge for his dorm room. Money I'd sent him for food, for books, for emergencies. All of it documented. I calculated the total as I went. By the time I finished, the number was staggering. Over $300,000. That's how much I'd spent raising Kyle, not counting my time, my energy, my lost opportunities. Just hard money, documented and proven. On Sunday, I went to the craft store and bought the nicest photo album they had. Large leather bound with thick pages. I also bought archival glue and protective sleeves and spent the rest of the day creating what would become my masterpiece. Page by page, I built a visual history of motherhood, of sacrifice, of unconditional love that had been returned with shame and indifference. The first page showed me in the hospital, hours after giving birth, holding newborn Kyle. I was alone in the photo, no proud father by my side. Beneath it, I glued the hospital bill and wrote in my neatest handwriting, "The day you were born, your father had already left. It was just you and me. Hospital bill, $8,412, paid off in 36 monthly installments." The next page showed Kyle as a toddler, gap-toothed and smiling, holding a stuffed elephant. Beneath it, receipts from the second-hand store where I'd bought most of his toys. My note: "Your 3rd birthday. I made your cake from scratch because the bakery wanted $60 and I only had $20 after paying rent. You said it was the best cake ever." Page after page, I documented our life together. Photos of Kyle at every age matched with the financial reality of raising him alone. His first day of kindergarten, paired with the receipt for his school supplies and new shoes. His Little League uniform paired with the registration fee I'd saved for by skipping lunches at work for 2 months. Middle school, high school. Every milestone, every achievement, every moment of joy. And beside each one, the price tag I'd paid, without ever asking for anything in return. The high school graduation photo showed Kyle in his cap and gown, beaming at the camera. Beneath it, I glued the letter from UCLA, awarding him the scholarship. My note: "The proudest moment of my life. You earned this through your hard work and brilliance. I cried tears of joy, knowing you'd have opportunities I never did." Then came the college years. The receipts got larger, the sacrifices more visible. I included photos of myself from those years, and I could see the aging in my own face, the exhaustion, the lines around my eyes, the grey creeping into my hair. I'd been working 2 jobs, sometimes 3 during busy seasons, to make sure Kyle had spending money, to make sure he could focus on his studies, instead of working part-time, like so many students. I found a photo of myself in my diner uniform, taken by a co-worker as a joke. I was 50 years old in that picture, carrying a tray of food, my smile tired but genuine. I glued it into the album and wrote, "Working the night shift at the diner so you could have extra money at college." I was exhausted, my feet hurt constantly, but hearing you talk about your dreams made every aching step worthwhile. I included the receipt for the laptop, the credit card statement showing the balance, and the 24 months it took to pay off. My note: I put this on credit because you needed it for school. I ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches for a year to make the payments. You never knew because I didn't want you to feel guilty. Near the end of the album, I included more recent photos. Kyle's graduation from UCLA. In the photo, I stood slightly apart from him and Tessa's family, smiling but clearly separate. My note: your graduation day. I was so proud, but I felt invisible. You left with Tessa's family for dinner and never opened the watch I'd given you. The second to last page showed holidays alone. Me sitting at a table set for one on Thanksgiving. A small Christmas tree in my apartment, no presents beneath it. My note: the holidays after you stopped coming home. I told everyone you were too busy with work, too successful to visit. I didn't tell them how much it hurt. The final page, I left mostly empty, just one item. A copy of the deed to the Malibu house. And my final note: Kyle, this is my wedding gift to you and Tessa. Inside this album is 33 years of my life. 33 years of waking up before dawn, working until my body screamed for rest, sacrificing every comfort and luxury so you could have more than I did. You asked for the key to my beach house for your honeymoon. The house my mother left me, the only valuable thing I own after spending everything on you. You didn't invite me to your wedding. You said it was intimate, just close family. 50 people, but not me. Not the woman who raised you alone, who gave you everything. You told your friends I embarrass you, that I'm too clingy, that you wish I wouldn't call so much. So here's what I'm giving you instead of the house keys, the truth. Every receipt in this album represents a choice I made, a choice to put you first, to go without so you could have, to work until I couldn't stand so you could study without worry, to love you unconditionally even when you gave me nothing in return. I calculated it as I made this album. $308,422. That's what I spent raising you, not counting the value of my time, my health, my lost dreams. You don't get the beach house. You don't get to use what little I have left after giving you everything. But you do get this album. Look through it. Every receipt, every photo, every note. And ask yourself, is this the woman you should be ashamed of? Is this the mother who deserves to be excluded from your life? I love you, Kyle. I always will. You are my son, and nothing will ever change that. But I will not be disrespected. I will not be used. I will not accept being treated like an inconvenience in your successful new life. When you're ready to talk to me with the respect that this album proves, I've earned my number, hasn't changed. Until then, have a wonderful honeymoon. I'm sure Tessa's parents can help you find accommodations that meet your standards. And happy marriage. I hope you build something beautiful together. I hope you have children someday. And I hope when they're grown, they treat you better than you've treated me. Mom. I read the letter 3 times, making sure every word was exactly what I wanted to say. Then I sealed it in an envelope and placed it on the last page of the album. Monday morning, I packaged the album carefully in bubble wrap and a sturdy box. I addressed it to Kyle's apartment in Los Angeles and paid for overnight delivery. They'd receive it Tuesday one day before they were supposed to head to Malibu for their honeymoon. As I watched the delivery driver take the package, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power, control, self-respect. I'd spent 33 years being the perfect mother, accepting whatever treatment my son gave me because I loved him. But love without respect is worthless, and I was done accepting less than I deserved. I went home, made myself a cup of tea, and waited. Tuesday passed quietly. I didn't hear from Kyle, but I didn't expect to. The package wouldn't be delivered until late afternoon, and I imagined he and Tessa were probably busy packing for a honeymoon they assumed was all arranged. I spent the day at work, going through the motions of processing insurance claims and answering phone calls. Linda noticed my distracted state. "You okay?" she asked during our lunch break. I'm fine, I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. Actually, I'm better than fine. I did something for myself yesterday. Something I should have done a long time ago. Linda smiled. Good for you. You deserve to put yourself first for once. That evening, I checked the tracking number. Package delivered at 4:32 p.m. Signed for by Kay Thompson. Kyle had the album. I turned off my phone and went to bed early, sleeping more soundly than I had in years. Wednesday morning, I woke to find my phone flooded with missed calls and texts, all from Kyle. The first text had come at 5:15 p.m. Tuesday. Mom, I got your package. Then 2 minutes later, I'm looking through it now. 10 minutes after that, Mom, I don't know what to say. Half an hour later, please call me. Then the calls started. 15 missed calls between 6 p.m. and midnight. Voicemails I didn't listen to. More texts. Wednesday morning starting at 6 a.m. Mom, please pick up. I need to talk to you. I was wrong, you're right. I'm so sorry. Please, Mom, answer your phone. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and read through all the messages. Part of me wanted to call him back immediately, to hear his voice, to forgive him like I always did. But I'd learned that quick forgiveness teaches nothing. Kyle needed to sit with what he'd done. He needed to really understand. So I didn't call back. I didn't text. I went to work, lived my day, came home. The messages continued. By Wednesday evening, Kyle had called me 30 times. The desperation in his texts was palpable. Mom, I can't stop looking at this album. I didn't know. I didn't remember all of this. I found the watch, the one you gave me at graduation. I never opened it. I read the engraving. I'm crying as I write this. Tessa saw the album. She's upset. She doesn't understand why you won't just let us use the house, but I understand. You're right. That last text made me pause. Tessa was upset. Of course she was. This wasn't going according to her plan. She'd probably expected me to roll over like I always had to give Kyle whatever he wanted. But the fact that Kyle said, "You're right," gave me hope. Maybe, just maybe, he was finally seeing clearly. Thursday morning, I woke to a new text. Mom, I'm driving down to San Diego today. I need to see you. I'll be there by noon. Please be home. He was coming, without asking permission, without checking if I was available. Just like the old Kyle used to do when he'd show up at my door after a bad day at school, and I'd make him hot chocolate, and everything would be okay. But we weren't those people anymore. Too much had happened. Too much hurt had been inflicted. Still, he was my son, and he was coming home. I took the day off work. I cleaned my apartment, not because it needed it, but because I needed something to do with my hands. I made a fresh pot of coffee. I sat on my worn sofa, the same sofa Tessa had looked at with disdain, and I waited. At 11:45, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Kyle standing there, and my heart broke all over again. He looked terrible. His eyes were red and swollen from crying. His hair was messy. He was wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt, not his usual expensive business casual attire. He looked like my son again, not the stranger he'd become. Mom, he whispered. And then he fell to his knees on my doorstep and sobbed. I stood there frozen, watching this grown man, my son, break down in front of me. Part of me wanted to pull him up, hug him, tell him everything was okay. But I didn't, because everything wasn't okay. And he needed to say what he'd come to say. Finally, he looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. Mom, I'm so sorry. For everything. For the wedding. For the way I've treated you, for being ashamed of you when you're the best thing in my life. I'm sorry. I felt my own tears start to fall. Come inside, Kyle. He stood on shaky legs and followed me in. We sat on that second-hand sofa, the one that had been in our living room for 20 years, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. I went through the whole album. Kyle finally said, his voice hoarse. Every page, every receipt, every photo. I read your letter 10 times. He pulled something from his pocket. the watch I'd given him 3 years ago. I found this. I never opened it at graduation. Tessa was rushing me and I just shoved it in a drawer and forgot about it. I opened it yesterday. The engraving. His voice broke. To Kyle, who made every sacrifice worth it. Love, Mom. He was crying again hard, his whole body shaking. I didn't make them worth it, he choked out. I took everything you gave me and I threw it back in your face. I let Tessa make me feel like you were an embarrassment. Like growing up poor was something to be ashamed of. But you weren't poor in the ways that matter, Mom. You were rich in love, in dedication, in strength. And I was too stupid and selfish to see it. I reached over and took his hand. It was bigger than mine now, rougher, but it was still the same hand I'd held crossing streets when he was small. Kyle, do you understand what you did to me? Not inviting me to your wedding. He nodded, tears still falling. I do now. Tessa's mom planned everything, and she didn't include you on the guest list, and I just let it happen. I told myself it was easier this way, that you'd understand, but the truth is, I was a coward. I was afraid you'd show up in your old dress, that you'd say something that would embarrass me in front of Tessa's family. And that thought, Mom, that I was embarrassed of you, makes me hate myself. You should have stood up for me, I know. You should have told Tessa's mother that your mother was coming to your wedding, end of discussion. I know. You should have never ever made me feel like I wasn't good enough. His voice was barely a whisper. I know. And I'm so sorry. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, I could hear kids playing in the parking lot, someone's radio playing music, normal life continuing, while my world shifted. What about Tessa? I finally asked. Kyle's face tightened. We had a fight, a big one. When she saw the album, she said you were manipulating me, that you were trying to guilt-trip me into choosing you over her. I told her you weren't manipulating me. You were showing me the truth. She said if I took your side, it would damage my relationship with her parents, that Harold might rethink my position at the company. And what did you say? I told her that I don't care. That I'd rather work anywhere else than at a place where I got the job because I married the boss's daughter, and I told her that you're my mother and she needs to respect that. I felt a small spark of pride. How did she take that? Not well. She's at our apartment right now, probably calling her mother. He looked at me and I saw genuine fear in his eyes. I don't know if my marriage is going to make it, Mom. We've only been married a week and we're already falling apart. But I realized something. I'd rather lose Tessa than lose you, because you're the one who's always been there. You're the one who actually loves me, not what I can give you or how I make you look. Just me. The words I'd been waiting to hear for years, but they came with such pain, such cost. I don't want your marriage to fail, Kyle. I want you to be happy. I want to be happy too, but not at the expense of the people who matter most, not at the expense of you. He squeezed my hand. Can you forgive me? I know I don't deserve it. I know I've been a terrible son, but I want to do better. I want to be the man you raised me to be, not the man Tessa tried to turn me into. I looked at my son, really looked at him. I saw the little boy who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms, the teenager who'd cried on my shoulder when his first girlfriend broke his heart. The young man who'd hugged me at his high school graduation and promised he'd make me proud. That person was still in there. He'd just gotten lost for a while. Of course I forgive you, I said. You're my son. I'll always forgive you. But things have to change, Kyle. I need you to respect me. I need you to include me in your life, and I need you to never ever be ashamed of me again. Never, he promised. I swear, Mom, never again. We talked for hours that day, really talked like we used to. Kyle told me about work, about the pressures he'd been under from Harold, about how Tessa's world had consumed him so completely he'd lost sight of himself. I told him about my life, the painting classes, the book club, the trip to San Francisco. I told him I'd built a life for myself, that I wasn't just sitting around waiting for him anymore. Good, he said. You deserve that. You deserve to be happy too. Before he left, he hugged me tight the way he used to when he was young. I love you, Mom. I'm going to do better. I promise. I love you too, honey. As I watched him drive away, I felt something settle in my chest. Peace, maybe, or acceptance. The relationship was damaged, and it would take time to rebuild. But we'd started. We'd taken the first real honest step in years. The weeks that followed were not easy. Kyle and Tessa went to counseling trying to work through the fundamental differences in how they viewed family and values. Tessa struggled to understand why her way of thinking was hurtful. She'd grown up in a world where image mattered more than substance, where wealth was the measure of worth. Changing that mindset didn't happen overnight, but Kyle was trying. He called me every few days, real calls, where we talked for more than 5 minutes. He asked about my life, listened when I spoke, shared his own struggles and fears. He admitted he'd been living a life that looked perfect on the outside, but felt hollow inside. Harold offered me a promotion, he told me one evening. VP of Acquisitions, huge salary bump, but I'd be working 80-hour weeks, traveling constantly. I'd never see anyone outside of work. What did you say? I turned it down. Tessa was furious. But I realized that job isn't what I want. I don't want to become Harold, sacrificing everything for money and status. I want a life that means something. I'm proud of you, Kyle. I'm applying to other companies. Smaller firms where I can actually have work-life balance. Tessa thinks I'm throwing away my future, but I think I'm finally building the future I actually want. I didn't know if Kyle and Tessa would make it. That was their journey to navigate. But I knew my son was finally remembering who he was, where he came from, and what actually mattered. 2 months after the album incident, Kyle showed up at my apartment on a Saturday morning. I have something for you, he said. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check. A large check. Kyle, what is this? It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's a start. He took a deep breath. I added up everything in the album. $308,000. That's what you spent raising me. This check is for half of that. I'm going to pay you back, Mum. Maybe not all at once, but over time. You gave me everything, and I'm going to make sure you can finally have something for yourself. I tried to hand it back. I don't want your money, Kyle. I know you don't, but please take it anyway. Use it for something you've always wanted. Take a real vacation. Fix up your apartment. Buy yourself something nice. You've earned it 1,000 times over. I looked at the check, then at my son's earnest face. Okay, thank you. We spent that day together, just the two of us. We drove to the beach, walked along the shore like we used to when Kyle was little. We got ice cream from our old favorite shop. We talked and laughed, and for a few hours it felt like the years of hurt hadn't happened. As the sun set over the Pacific, Kyle said, I keep the album on my coffee table. Tessa hates it. But every time I look at it, I remember. I remember what real love looks like, what real sacrifice means. And I remember I need to be better. I linked my arm through his. You are better. You're here, aren't you? I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Over the following months, Kyle kept his word. He found a new job at a smaller real estate company, one that valued employees as people rather than assets. His relationship with Tessa remained strained. She never quite forgave me for the album, never quite understood why Kyle wouldn't just get over it. But Kyle stood firm. He invited me to dinners, included me in holidays, called just to chat. We spent Thanksgiving together that year, just the two of us in my small apartment. I made turkey and all the trimmings, and Kyle helped me cook, laughing, as he remembered how terrible he used to be at mashing potatoes. I missed this, he said, as we sat down to eat. I missed us. Me too, honey, me too. As I sat across from my son, watching him serve himself sweet potato casserole, I thought about the journey we'd taken, the pain, the anger, the heartbreak, but also the growth, the healing, the rebuilding. I'd learned something through all of it, that love means setting boundaries, that being a good mother doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is demand respect. And Kyle learned too. He learned that success measured only in money is empty, that the people who love you when you have nothing are the people worth keeping. That shame is a poor foundation for a life. We're still healing. Some days are harder than others. Kyle and Tessa are in therapy, trying to bridge the gap between their vastly different worldviews. I don't know if they'll make it, but I know Kyle and I will, because we've both learned what matters. That album sits on Kyle's coffee table to this day. He tells me he looks at it often, especially when he's faced with difficult decisions. It reminds him where he came from. It reminds him who he wants to be. And me, I used part of Kyle's check to take a painting class I'd always wanted. I bought some new furniture. I treated Linda to a spa weekend as a thank you for years of friendship. And I put the rest in savings, a little cushion for the future. But mostly I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. Not free from loving my son, but free from needing his approval to validate my worth. Free from accepting less than I deserved. Free from living my life in the shadow of his success. I raised a good man. He lost his way for a while, seduced by wealth and status, and the opinions of people who didn't actually care about him. But the foundation I built, the values I instilled, they were still there. They just needed to be reminded of. So no, Kyle didn't get the beach house for his honeymoon. He got something better. He got a mirror held up to his life showing him who he'd become and asking if that was who he wanted to be. And he chose to be better. I don't know what the future holds for us. Kyle's marriage might not survive. He might rebuild his relationship with Tessa's family, or he might not. He might stay in real estate or find a new passion entirely. Life is unpredictable, and we can't control how things turn out. But I do know this. My son knows now that I'm not someone he can take for granted. I'm not a resource to be used when convenient and ignored otherwise. I'm his mother, the woman who gave him life, who shaped him, who loved him, even when he didn't deserve it. And that album, it wasn't just a wedding gift. It was a reclamation of my own story. A reminder to myself as much as to Kyle of everything I'd accomplished, every sacrifice I'd made, every challenge I'd overcome. I spent 33 years putting my son first. Now I'm learning to put myself first, sometimes too. And Kyle is learning that that's not just okay, it's necessary. That healthy relationships require balance, respect, mutual care. We're building something new now. Not the relationship we had when he was a child, dependent on me for everything. And not the broken relationship we had when he was ashamed of me. Something different. Something between two adults who love each other, respect each other, and are committed to showing up for each other. It's not perfect. Some days are still hard, but it's real, it's honest, and it's ours. I'm 56 years old. I raised my son alone, worked myself to exhaustion, sacrificed my dreams for his. And when he forgot the value of that, when he let someone convince him I was worthless, I reminded him. Not through anger, not through manipulation, but through truth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is show someone exactly what they've taken for granted. Let them see, really see the cost of your love, and then let them choose what to do with that knowledge. Kyle chose to come back, to apologize, to rebuild. And that's enough for me. I have my son back. Not the version Tessa tried to create all polish and pretense, but the real Kyle, the one I raised, the one with a good heart and a strong mind and the capacity to admit when he's wrong. That's the son I always knew was in there. He just needed to remember it himself. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt unappreciated, taken for granted, or treated as less than you deserve, I want you to know something. You have the right to demand respect. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to say no, even to people you love. Love without respect is not love at all. And teaching people how to treat you isn't selfish. It's necessary. I learned that the hard way. But I learned it. And my life is better for it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a boundary with someone you love? How did it turn out? Leave a comment below and share your story. And if this resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories like this. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it, someone who's struggling with being taken for granted. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope it reminded you of your own worth, your own strength, your own right to be respected. Take care of yourselves, stand up for yourselves, and remember you deserve to be valued by the people you love. Until next time, this is Sharon, reminding you that sometimes the greatest gift you can give is the truth.